Hi, my name is Brigitte and I'm here from For Your Head and Wet Felt Hat Making. Today I'm going to use some of my remnants of materials that I have left to design an interior pattern of a hat. I'm going to show you that process, but first I wanted to show you the different types of wool that I'm going to be using. I don't use necessarily always a single type of wool, and right now I'm kind of down to the bottom of the barrel of what I have left. So I'm going to be using some yarns, different types of yarns, a few different types of roving, and I just wanted to show you those materials and explain a little bit about them, and then we will show you how, or I'll show you in QuickTime another pattern that you can incorporate different types of wools and roving into making your pattern. So first I'm going to show you the different types of materials, and then we will design a hat. Okay, I'll show you some of the materials now. Okay, so I have a selection of the wool that I'm going to be using for this project, and there's a few different types here. So this first one here, this is a Coeur d'Alene wool, nice mauve color, and I'm just going to pull it apart so you can see how the fibers are. It's a little bit of a coarser type of roving. The strands here look like they're about 3 inches or so. I like it because it seems to be easier to work with because of the thickness of the fibers. Have a few different colors here. I'll pull a little bit off. This is a nice purple color, aubergine. So you can see how fine that is. This one I primarily like to use. I got this at Naughty by Nature in Victoria. They have a wonderful color selection. The next type of wool I'm using is a merino type of wool. This is quite a bit finer and thinner, and I found it a little bit more difficult to work with. I'm just going to pull some off here. It's very light and airy. Sometimes it's difficult to place. This one has a nice blue and black tone to it. I had a few different varieties. This one came from a local shop here in Seashelt called Unwind. I like to use these merinos for some accent colors. That's what I use. Now this one is a bulk fiber that I like to use. I get it at a local shop in Victoria, but the fibers come from Australia. It's quite a thick wool. The fibers are a little bit shorter. They're quite a bit curlier. I like to use this for the interior where you might not necessarily see it. So that's some of the roving that I'm going to be using. And I said I'm going to be using some scraps of wool. So here some yarn. So this is some thick yarn. I found this at a thrift store. I like to use it in little chunks. You can see I pull it off like this, and I'll lay that down. It's quite coarse. This was used in making sweaters here on the west coast, Vancouver Island. We have the famous Cowichan Indian sweater. These fibers are woven into small strands. Here I have in black. It's only 2 per strand. This blue one I think is 4 per strand. They come in all sorts of different colors, grays. So I'm going to be using some of that. And also got some pencil roving. Could also be used for knitting, and it's quite a fine type of material. I'm going to pull this apart here for you. It's quite slippery, and I find when I use that I need to really cut the fibers or cut the sections short or else it really won't incorporate well. So I can't really use a full strand like this. The fibers don't integrate. So that's what I'll be using that. And I've also found this other kind of scrap ball of knitting wool. It's kind of twisted and I don't know, matted a little bit. And again, I don't like to use a whole big section of something like this because it just doesn't seem to integrate well. And you can see it's quite hard or quite rigid. So when the rest of the fibers mesh together, this doesn't always penetrate in when it's in such big sections. So those are the materials that I'm going to be using, and don't exactly know what kind of pattern I'm going to make. Spontaneity takes its course. So if you'd like to join me, that's what the next section of the video is going to be about. Okay, so I've basically done my pattern here, and it's my first layer. I'm gonna do a second layer that covers it over so I can flip it over. I'll show you that. And then I'll just do the same pattern on the inside. Do 2 layers of, I guess I call it filling, and then the final 2 layers, which I think I might use this color, rosy burgundy, on the outside. We'll see how it goes. Okay. So as I suspected, I'm running out of material. So what I'm going to do for this second layer is I'm going to use this Coeur d'Alene, this purple, around the seam edges because I did use some purple on the pattern, and that will help make it cohesive. And then I'm going to use some of this bulky brown as the filler. What I didn't mention before is that this is kind of rough material. It still has little bits of plant debris in it, so I'll either pull those out or I won't because they're inside and they won't be seen. Okay, so now I'm just going to do the second layer, wet it down, and turn it over and redo the pattern on the other side. So I've just got some hot water in a squeezy bottle with a little bit of soap, and what I'm going to do is put another mat on top of it like this, and I'm going to wet it down, go over the edges, and this is going to mat the fibers or help integrate them together. Make sure I go all the way out to the edges. And now I have this side, and I'm going to try and recreate the pattern that I did on the other side. That's what I'll do now. Okay, so I've just finished 2 layers on each side. Each inside piece has a pattern, and then I've done a second layer over. Now I'm going to do my middle 2 layers. I'm going to use this bulk brown roving. It goes very quickly, so I'm going to do 2 layers on each side, and then the final 2 layers I'll try to make it a little bit more decorative using some of the colors that I did on the inside pattern. So I just realized I made a mistake. For the 3rd layer, I was supposed to go parallel to the edges, and the 4th layer is going to go over to fold over. But since I'm short on the filler, I think it's going to work out. So I'm just going to do this single 3rd layer. I'll do a single 3rd layer on the other side, and then I'll finish off with 2 final layers. All right, so I have only 2 more layers to do. I'm going to use this purpley Coeur d'Alene for the layer that goes parallel to the edges. And for the very final coat, the top one, I will be using this burgundy merino, and I'm going to add some accents with some of these other colors. Okay, so I finished all my layers and I'm ready to felt it all together, mat it all together. I really just wanted to show you how I kind of layered the material, so I'm not going to show myself rolling and whatnot, but I will put it on a block, and once it's dried I'll show you the inside. Okay, so this is felted up pretty nicely, so I'm going to be able to look at the inside and just make sure the inside is all integrated. And so I thought it would be a good time to show you what the pattern design looks like. Okay, so I've taken a little bit of the soap off so you can see a little bit better what the pattern looks like on either side. But I am going to do a little bit more work to make sure it's integrated on this side, and then I will put it on a block. So here is the hat that we made yesterday. It has dried overnight, and so now I'm going to show you what the inside pattern looks like. I haven't seen it myself, so we'll just take a quick peek. So I think I'm going to have to get a different light. Okay, hopefully this is a little bit better to show you the interior. I think I will trim it up so it can be seen a little bit better. Okay, I've trimmed off the excess of the brim, and now you can see the interior of the hat a little bit better. I'm just going to turn it around. And I will hem up the edges and then show you a final look. I think I'm happy with it. Okay, I've pinned the brim here just to put in a little bit of a crease so it's easier for me to trim it up. But I think you can also see better the interior. So it's, I guess, a kind of a subtle pattern, but that's what we have. So I'm going to trim this up, and then we will have a nice new finished hat. Okay, well, thanks for joining me. I hope you can use up some of your own scraps and come up with some interesting patterns. You never know what you're going to get on the inside, but it's usually a nice surprise. Okay, thanks and happy felting.